I'm Lucy. I'm a resident film major in college.
I'm Jay. I wanted to start this podcast, and we both work at the movie theater. Today we'll be discussing Beverly Hills Cop. So, what did you think of the movie?
I thought it was very funny.
That's nice to hear. I wasn't sure, how your view of that would be compared to, I guess, back then sensibility to today's sensibility. If you'd find it it's being very sexist or anything, but I mean, back then stuff was definitely way more sexist anyways.
Yeah. Honestly, it wasn't bad compared to a lot of 80s movies I've seen, like 16 Candles, like that one, although I think it's funny at some points, some parts did age very poorly. But, in this one, I wasn't, too taken aback by too much, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm already back in film class. This is all the kind of stuff we discuss, like how the films hold up, especially because I just took the class about John Hughes movies.
Yeah.
But no, I think this one still is a very funny film to watch today, and they're releasing a new one, right?
Yeah, in early July, it's the fourth one.
The fourth one.
But it's going to be direct to Netflix, so that's a different one, because the other three were all released in theaters.
Oh, uh-oh.
Kind of disappoints me a little bit,
Yeah.
But I guess that's what Eddie Murphy's career has been now, is his first movie back was Netflix, and then he did a couple on Prime.
Back, you mean after COVID?
No, after years of not doing much.
Oh, okay.
Because in the 80s, he was one of the biggest stars in the world, just about the biggest star in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of continued in the 90s, but it started to wane. And then he just got more popular throughout from voice acting in Shrek and whatnot.
Yeah.
Wasn't really acting in front of the camera. And then he did a movie called Dolomite about the blaxploitation filmmaker. And that was on Netflix, and then that's become the beginning of him doing more stuff, but now it's all streaming instead of going in theaters.
Yeah, I feel like that definitely is a red flag. Because Netflix movies are notorious for being a little cheesy.
I mean, I think it's tended to vary. I watched The Bubble, which I thought was actually quite decent.
Oh, really?
Judd Apatow made it.
Okay.
It's kind of goofing on COVID and making movies and goofing on Transformers and Jurassic Park and everything. But then I also watched Don't Look Up was very awkward because they had Meryl Streep trying to do Donald Trump. And it's unless you're going to go even more outrageous than what Donald Trump is, it doesn't work.
I think I might have seen Don't Look Up.
It has DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence.
I probably did.
Okay. It was kind of it wasn't intended to be a commentary on COVID, but it ended up being one.
Well, I think that the fact that there's going to be a fourth movie definitely is a testament to how well Beverly Hills Cop holds up.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons, we started, the first time we ever did a review was of Titanic, and that one was was in theaters, and it was actually number one, I think, for 15 weeks in a row, which is pretty good. And I believe Beverly Hills Cop had about 12 weeks during its time.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I mean, nowadays, I don't think anything could even get to number one every single week. It might be in theaters for a shocking amount of time. Top Gun Maverick was in theaters for 6 months or whatever. No, I don't think it was number one every week, but still that's a long time in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, it is definitely a commentary on Eddie Murphy is talented and funny. Definitely got his flaws as a comedian, but I mean, if you ever watch the stand-up specials, there's a lot in there, I'm sure you would be really?
Probably.
But it's also, I would argue, some of the stuff he's saying is well, that's kind of the time, people were more that way, talking that way back then.
That's the thing, people have to remember is lots of stuff is of its time and people just don't know better.
Yeah, because it's you watch a movie set in slavery or civil rights, and then you got white people dropping the N-word, and it's how dare they say it? It's but that's how white people talked at that time.
Right.
They weren't shy about using that word, and it's you have to remember, some of the stuff will be offensive by today's mentality, but is it being true to what that time was?
Right. You want to make the film accurate and make it have an impact for sure. And to do that, I think it has to be true to life and
Yeah.
to make it as accurate to the time period as you can. Like, it was, I think it was Game of Thrones when there was a Starbucks cup in there. Like, I mean, that caused quite a stir.
Yeah, and it was also the final season, which is funny because it's like you think at that point they really would be on top of things more.
Yeah.
But so did you feel that there's a sense of I could watch more of these movies, or were you like, this one's good, but I don't think I'd continue on?
I would watch more of them. I'm a big fan of comedies. It's probably my favorite movie genre ever, even over romance, is if I see a good comedy. And I think, Eddie Murphy is his name, the main
Yeah.
guy? Yeah. I thought his comedic timing was really, really good.
Yeah.
Like, especially just the way he laughs.
Yeah, he's got a very distinctive laugh.
Yeah, exactly. And there was one part in particular that made me and my mom both just like die. She loves this movie. She watched it 1,000 times, but it was when he imitated that one policeman, his
You're not
voice.
gonna follow from a hand in the tailpipe?
Yeah, that part was really funny. So yeah, I thought he did a really good job. And is the other guy, is that Michael Keaton?
I mean the police officer in Beverly Hills?
Yeah.
No, that's Judge Reinhold, I think you're talking
Yes.
about.
Yes, that's him. I love him. He's so
Yeah.
funny in everything I see him in. I just watched, it was a movie with Bette Midler.
You
And
mean Ruthless People?
yes, that's it. I thought he was really good in that too. And in The Santa Claus, like everything I see him in, he's
Yeah.
so funny.
And he was one that kind of fell off the map too for a bit. Like you don't see him in much anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I think he just becomes between what scripts they get offered and just they decide, you know, I got money by now, so I don't have to do
Mhm.
whatever crap I'm stuck with. Although he did do 2 sequels to Beethoven directed videos, so
Wow.
yeah, at least one of them I thought 2, but at least one of them I know.
See, that feels like self-sabotage because I don't think those movies are very good, are they?
Well, the first 2 Beethovens were good. Then once they did directed video, then it was, usually that's a sign of, well, this won't be received well, so let's just cut our losses and don't put it in theaters.
That's John Hughes, isn't it? Beethoven?
No,
Or did he do a different, like, dog movie?
yeah, it probably would have been like mid-2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I know, like, I think there's a mentality that his stuff was suffering by then.
Hmm.
Because he did a movie. Here's the question.
Hmm.
Have you ever heard of Drill Bit Taylor?
I had to watch it for my John Hughes class. That's the movie that came to my head when you said his movies were suffering.
Yeah, well, what's interesting, he didn't even write it,
yeah.
he didn't want his name associated with it. And I think there was a sense that it would, like, Seth Rogen kind of reworked the script, I think, a lot, and that's
Like,
probably...
basically the whole script.
Yeah, I
like,
think-
it was barely what John Hughes had before.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason it's even sort of watchable.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, Apatow produced it, and I'm a huge fan of Judd Apatow stuff. But getting back to Beverly Hills Cop,
Yes.
did you have any other views of, like, makes sense that this was, like, gonna be a breakout hit for Eddie Murphy, or...
Was it a breakout hit for him?
Oh, like, it was the 3rd movie he did, and, like, that was, like, kind of what made his career in a way.
Okay.
Because he started out as a SNL performer, and
Yes, that's how I recognized him.
And it was argued that in his time, he was kind of the one who ended up saving the show in the end for a few years, because they said after a while it got to be like every week he would have a new character, and then he started getting a lot of screen time. So it was like him and supposedly Joe Piscopo were like the ones that kept the show going for a few years until they got a better showrunner. But
Okay, yeah. I definitely think this makes sense to be a breakout hit because something that really impressed me was like the elaborate sequences of action, especially in the beginning. But even, throughout the whole movie, like, there were lots of moments where it was just like bam, bam, bam.
yeah,
And that definitely works to engage the viewer. So if you have like semi-realistic action sequences that are engaging along with a really funny guy and funny supporting actors. I don't know, I think that's a recipe for success for sure, and
Yeah.
since it was starring him, definitely makes sense that it would gain a lot of popularity.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, it wasn't even like meant to be an Eddie Murphy movie. Like
Really?
at one point, I think they said that for a couple of years they were offering it to like almost everybody in Hollywood that would do action.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stallone almost was gonna do it, but then he didn't like the script, so he rewrote it. And then he's like, I want to do this, and they're like, yeah, we don't have the budget for all that.
Mm-hmm.
So then they're like, can I go off and make my own movie? Which he actually did, a movie called Cobra,
Really?
which is pretty much garbage. Like,
Oh.
I mean, you can certainly watch it sometime, but it's not recommended.
Well, that's what you get when you aren't grateful for the original script.
Yeah, and then too, like this is one of the early Don Simpson's, Jerry Bruckheimer movies, and they for a long time were like mega hit producers. Like just about everything they did, I think, was a giant hit. Like they did Top Gun and
Mm-hmm.
Flashdance and Crimson Tide, just a whole bunch of stuff. Martin Brest directed it. He's done a lot of good stuff too.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I would say the second one's also quite good. Third one fails because it tried to go more for the comedy than the action. The first two is like done as action movies that happen to have a lot of humor to them.
Yes.
And then the third one was pretty much done as a comedy that just happens to feature action sequences, and it just didn't work. So, you know, I'm really hoping the fourth one goes back to this is an action movie, it's just going to have a lot of humor to it.
Yeah. Something I'm a really big advocate for is with movies like horror, which is the example I usually use, but it rings true for action too, is that having an action or a horror movie with like comedy in it definitely helps reinforce that the movie is aware of itself. Like, I think Beverly Hills Cop, it knows how ridiculous it is, you know, with all the destruction and stuff. And so, like, it's action you can enjoy because you can laugh at it and you're like, wow, this is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And, you know, with horror movies too, like Scream, that's always the example I use. They make fun of the tropes, like don't look behind you, don't say I'll never be right back. Stuff like that just really helps a movie keep its feet on the ground, and it makes it more enjoyable for me as a viewer.
Yeah, I've always tended to appreciate when you infuse a good amount of humor into something, and if you can find the right actors to bring in the humor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's always fun with Beverly Hills Cop is there's a scene where they go to the strip club, of course.
Yes.
And then that's where he kind of proves himself to the Beverly Hills police officers, where it's like he recognizes two guys are gonna knock over the joint, so and he like figures out get close to him by acting like you're drunk off your ass, and he's a drunk fool, and then disarms him and stuff, and then later on he goes to they're talking to the captain or whatever, who's just like, what were you guys doing in there? And it's like, oh yeah. And he makes up his story like, oh yeah, I went to that place because it's fun, and they were just following me there, and they foiled the crime, is amazing, and then it's like, is this how it went down? It's like, no. How did it go down? It was all him pretty much, and then it's like, you know what, you guys, it's a good lie, he was believing it, and then there's that moment of he's kind of like smiling like, okay, this guy, he's not really that bad a guy, and starting to respect him as a police officer.
For sure. That's another part of his comedic timing is just like the little smiles he does. And something also I wanted to point out was how it ends with a freeze frame.
Yes.
That is so 80s. Like, yeah.
See, what's interesting is they released it on 4K a while back. I have not yet seen anything on 4K or own 4K TV. I think in the audio commentary, which is also on the DVD, I believe, that Martin Brest has expressed that he was not happy with that end of the movie. Like, he didn't want it to end the way it ended, but apparently the studio was just like, no, this is what we're going with. I think they felt it was more of a good button, like, funny laugh, like, guys, I'm gonna go stop this place. Oh, I'll be fine, trust me.
Yeah.
But
I thought the ending, again, pretty classic 80s movie. Everything comes together, they're all happy, they're gonna go get a drink. And yeah, I mean, that makes it a little bit predictable. I kind of saw that coming. And then the freeze frame just hit it home.
Yeah. The other one thing too I feel like is interesting about it is, and maybe like they couldn't find any way to justify putting romance into it, but there's no parts of like him getting romantic with anyone. Like I feel like in a lot of 80s movies, there were, I mean, even into the 90s, 2000s, I think it's less by now, but there's always that sentiment of let's bring in a female character for the male character to romance. Because I mean, I wonder if there's even a sense of people thinking when they first watched it, is he gonna end up hooking up with Jenny Summers, a woman that he's known as a kid, because that's who he goes to like talk to when he gets there. But I also kind of suspect too, given that it's the 80s, there's probably a heavy concern of, are we gonna really put an interracial sex scene in this movie?
Oh, yeah, I didn't think of that. I mean, yeah, the thought definitely crossed my mind that they might date, or, you know, end up dating or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's a really good point. And yeah, I feel like we're very conditioned to assume that when man meets woman, woman meets man in movie, they're going to end up together.
Yeah.
So I mean, it crossed my mind, but I'm actually kind of glad that they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a good choice, and it's also the fact, you know, it's an R-rated movie, so there's always that sense of, you know, especially back then, it's like, let's get some people in the bed and like have them rolling around, because that's hard what people, you know, it's like you got the attractive actors on screen, let's get them naked and doing stuff, because that's what will help sell the movie.
Add the saxophone music, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought that was very interesting because that was very not typical for 80s movies. And I think that the balance they struck with action and comedy was great.
Yeah.
And I don't think they needed any romance to enhance it. I thought that he was just a funny character by himself, and just goes to show that you can make a successful movie without any romantic elements.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a common theme, and it honestly annoys me. And I'm a sucker for a good romance, but
I can be too.
right, it's like it just gets a little bit tired, because even in horror novels that I read, there's always a love interest.
So you don't like watching horror movies, but you'll read horror novels, like I guess like
No,
Stephen
I
King.
like horror movies now.
Oh, okay. Now you like horror movies after you took the class.
No.
So I guess you were very happy watching this movie. You felt like it was a good, worth of your time.
I did. I actually had seen it before.
You had?
Yes, my mom, you know, she loves those really, really 80s movies. And so I remember just very vague bits and pieces of it.
Oh, okay.
Like when they're searching through the coffee grounds and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I remember that's how I learned that it masks like the smell of the drugs
Yeah.
for the dogs or whatever.
Yeah.
But so I had seen it before. I did not remember it though.
Yeah.
And I can say that my second time watching it, I was very happy. It kept my attention the whole time. And yeah, like I said, a great balance of action and comedy.
And then the gallery scene with Bronson Pinchot. You know who that is?
Was that the one who was like speaking in an accent?
Yeah. Oh, like there's a story that he went into like audition for it or talked to the director, and his attitude was, I don't really want the role, but wouldn't it be funny if this is like one of those people that you see in a gallery where they act like they're better than everyone else and they speak in some unintelligible accent. And then he kind of did what he thought would be fun for the role, and then the director's like, please do this. And
Oh my gosh, I love when actors do stuff like that. They kind of add their own spin to it.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot, you've watched Gilmore Girls, at least a little bit.
Yeah.
So you know Michelle. That's who that reminded me of. The French guy.
Oh yes, the guy who works the desk usually.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I cannot stand you.
Yeah.
Like, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's what that reminded me of.
Yeah. I mean, he does return to the third one. I mean, I'll say that the third one is definitely the weakest of them all.
So
Obviously, I
far.
haven't seen the fourth.
So far.
And I mean, I hope Murphy is smart enough not to allow it to be like the third one. So, back to Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah, enough of that grim
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think it's definitely a reason why Eddie Murphy developed quite the career as an actor and
Hmm.
became one of the biggest stars in the world. And yep, everything falls off over time, I think, just because audiences change. Because, yeah, it does disappoint me that the fourth one won't be in theaters.
Yeah.
But I guess you just gotta, if you want to get something made, you gotta make it the way you want, or how it can get made.
Right.
You know, Knives Out was in theaters, and then they did the second one on Netflix.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
I wonder too if there's an element of Netflix's attitude is, you make the movie you want to make, we'll step back and let you do it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. We just won't hire you again. But
And that's an interesting point to bring up because I know that a lot of people, I know a lot of people that like murder mysteries, and they said they liked Glass Onion better than Knives Out. Not everyone is unanimous, but like at least half of the people I've talked to said they liked that one better. So that's interesting because it kind of makes the case that for that movie, it didn't matter whether it was produced by Netflix or a corporation like that or a studio.
yeah, and I mean, I don't know if I buy the whole, oh, if it's on Netflix or Prime or whatever, and it's not worth your time. I'm sure there, I mean,
Yeah.
there's not gonna be enough movies that get put in the theater that are like, that wasn't really that good.
Oh, we
So-
know this.
So, anything you'd like to add?
Yes. I think it'll be very interesting to see, you know, since this movie was so of its time in quality too, but you said they released it in 4K, I think it'll be interesting to see what they do for the action sequences and how that will look in a higher resolution. And how also they will adapt the humor to be more modern and less offensive.
Yeah,
And if that will make it, if that will even do justice to the original, you know?
yeah. I mean, I guess I'm curious, what parts did you think like, wow, that's actually pretty offensive?
I didn't really though,
Okay,
but I know some people would.
yeah,
Like it's different for everyone.
yeah. I mean, I know like the checking into the hotel scene got a little dicey, but
Yes, yeah, that was, for sure, yeah, that was, I think, the one moment where I was like, whoa! But I mean, also, oh my god, it's him saying it,
yeah.
so which is,
I mean, that's, you know, it's kind of the rule of, you know, that word is allowed for certain people.
yeah.
And certain words are allowed for certain people, and, you know, that's just how society has accepted it, so.
But that is also something that also aged well, because it is like poking fun at Karens of now.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, the whole idea of, you know, he doesn't have the reservation, so he makes up this whole
Yeah.
ridiculous claim, and then they give him a better suite or whatever, but then it's like, you can't really afford it, then the joke is at the end, the police department pays for it anyway.
Yeah, it all kind of holds true, even if what is considered appropriate changes, like,
Yeah,
I think the movie still holds true.
yeah, and I mean, also, at least so far, there's not been any issues of hearing like, oh yep, this person involved was like, turns out they were a scumbag that like, they
Yes.
drug people or do awful things, so.
No, I haven't like, you know, just from what I've heard about this movie, no one has ever said like, whoa, like that's, I don't know if you should watch that, it's pretty offensive, like it's never been canceled or
Yeah.
anything.
Or like, no, none of the actors have been canceled or anything.
Yes, so that's.
Anymore, that's kind of rare by now, but.
Mm-hmm. I mean, unless, you know, Eddie Murphy's comedy specials are a little bit.
I mean, as I say, like, there's definitely like, you look back now, when you look through a 2024 lens, it's like, yeah, I mean, not all of it, but some of it. Cause yeah, he's got some, he does jokes about the gay community that nowadays would be like,
Oh. Well, that would be interesting for me to see, considering my status within the
Yeah.
LGBTQ community.
not shy about dropping the F-bomb.
But I am not offended easily,
Yeah.
so who knows? Maybe we'll talk about it in the next episode. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
I mean, as I say, like, yeah, I generally enjoyed his stuff, and I'm hoping to see more from him. I gotta get around to watching more of his streaming things, and hoping number 4 is good.
Do you think that they would dare to add some more risque jokes into a 2024 version?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a question of like how they want to approach it and like who's handling writing it and directing it and producing it by now. And since it's gonna be Netflix, yeah, I feel like there might be more leeway than what you'd get for a theatrical movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think Eddie Murphy still has it when he's given the opportunity to do it, and I think he has said like this is gonna be a more mature Axel Foley, so. Because I mean, he is in his 60s by now, so
Yeah.
can't quite do like all the action-y stuff that he necessarily would have been able to do in the early ones. But
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. He's in his 60s. Wow.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, he looks good.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wouldn't have guessed.
He kind of, yeah, he was in his 20s when he started becoming a big star. So, but anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I think that's all I had.
Yeah, I think I don't really have much else to say. That was a good movie and definitely deserved to be one of the biggest hits. For a while, it was like among the top 10 biggest hits ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also more impressive too because back then ticket prices were so much cheaper, so
Yeah.
had a lot more longevity. Well, thanks for tuning in. If
One
you
more
did.
thing before we go.
Okay.
I'd like to announce my selection on the live,
Okay.
so they can get your reaction. Have you seen a movie called 8th Grade?
I have yet to see it. I am curious about it, but I have yet to see it.
Well, you're gonna watch it soon.
Okay.
So that will be next week.
Okay.
Or whenever we film it.
Whenever she has time.
And I have it on DVD, so you have no excuse.
I'll probably find some place it's streaming, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But thanks for tuning in, and till next time.